From the pages of Vogue to World War II battlefields, who was photographer Lee Miller? Lee Miller posed for a photograph in the bathtub as the sweat and dirt of weeks of war washed off her. This was no ordinary bathroom. It was the personal sanctuary of Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler, who died of suicide that very day in Berlin. Miller, a war photographer, had entered Hitler's Munich home as Allied forces battled their way through Germany, and the improbable photo of an American bombshell bathing in the Führer's personal tub became one of the most indelible images of the waning days of World War II. As a former model, Miller knew how to work her best angle. But the image buried the complexity of its subject. A muse, a hard-working artist, and a groundbreaking photographer in her own right, whose life story is now being told in a biopic starring Kate Winslet. Here's how Elizabeth Lee Miller broke boundaries in front of and behind the lens. From the pages of Vogue to the battlefields of Europe. Miller was born in Poughkeepsie, New York, to a well-to-do family in 1907. By the time she was 18, Miller was ambitious, jaw-droppingly beautiful, and eager to break with conventional norms. She moved to New York City to pursue art, acting, and modeling. As luck, or shrewd planning, would have it, she soon got her big break when she was rescued from an oncoming car by none other than legendary Vogue publisher Condé Nast, the most influential man in the fashion industry. The incident soon became the stuff of fashion legend. Art historian Patricia Ulmer calls her stepping in front of the car a possibly conscious decision, as Miller likely knew who Nast was and was eager to catch his eye. Soon, Miller was an established fashion model. In 1929, Miller's career took a turn when her photograph appeared a sided copy for Kotex tampons. It was the first time a recognizable woman had posed in an ad for menstrual products. Scandalous at the time, and all but ended Miller's days as a mainstream fashion model. She turned to doing behind-the-scenes work for Vogue, and in 1929 headed to Europe for a research project. While living in London, World War II broke out and Miller took on a new boundary-breaking job, war correspondent for Vogue. At the time, most war correspondents were men. Miller brought both a surrealist's lens and a woman's eye to her work, documenting the Blitz as she helped expand the concept of what a fashion magazine could cover. After D-Day, she went to the European continent, photographing active battle against the wishes of American officials who didn't want a woman at the front lines. To get closer to the front, Miller teamed up with her friend and on-and-off lover Dave Sherman, an accredited photographer for Life magazine. She was the only dame who stayed through the siege of Saint-Malo, Sherman later wrote. He came to admire her grit and determination, and together they followed the Allied forces as they battled their way toward Germany. Miller would stay in Europe to photograph the aftermath of the war too, producing memorable images of the war's effect on women and children and continuing to perfect her techniques. But post-traumatic stress, motherhood, and the end of the excitement of war photography all took their toll. Miller suffered from bouts of mental illness and developed a problem with alcohol. Today, thanks largely to the advocacy of her son, who preserved tens of thousands of her photographs and wrote her first biography, Miller's legacy continues to influence the worlds of fashion, photography, and art.